Welcome to This Wasn't the Plan podcast. I'm Callie.
And I'm Brittany.
And we're two best friends who met during breast cancer treatment in our 30s. This rocked our world, but we managed to get through it together. We've laughed, cried, and learned a lot along the way.
This is our real, raw, and honest journey, and we're here to help you feel less alone in yours. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show.
Hey,
Hello. How you doing?
Britt. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be recording our first intro.
I know. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
How was your week?
It was good. It was good. It was, it was launch week, so it was exciting, and I felt like my mind was there a lot. It was not only launch week for you, but it was your birthday week. So tell me about that. How was your birthday?
Yes, it was my 38th birthday. I celebrated the whole entire week. I made sure my husband did something for me every single day.
I love that.
And I actually requested that. That was my request. And we are still celebrating. Today was pretty much the last day of like big stuff that we were doing. And it was really fun. And I'm just, honestly, I'm sure you can feel this, like after getting diagnosed with cancer, holidays, birthdays, like milestones, they just like hit so differently now. Like there's like a deeper sense of gratitude. Like, okay, yeah, do I want to get older and wrinkly? Yeah, I do, because that means I'm alive. I mean, I like less wrinkles, but I'll take them if it means I get to live a long life.
Age gracefully, but age. Like,
yes.
Thank God for that. Give me the wrinkles.
I'm still going to go to bed with like frownies on, mouth tape. You know, I'm going to keep my skin out of the sun, wear my sunscreen. But I am so happy to be aging. So, yeah, It was a really good birthday. So we're here to just tell everybody what this episode is about.
Yeah.
It's our top 10 tips for somebody who is just diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of just like tell them why we chose this as our first episode?
For sure. Yeah. I think as we were kind of brainstorming, doing a podcast, we had so many topics come to mind. We have a list, probably like a year's worth of episode ideas. And we knew that there would be a lot of people finding us who have been recently diagnosed or who are walking through a cancer journey. I know I always look for community and look at other people's stories and try to learn from what they've done and learned along the way. So right away, we wanted to get out there some of the things that we've learned. And we are only experts in our own story, but we hope that something we share in this episode will really help somebody. With that being said, it was our first time recording together, and there's slight technical difficulty. The audio quality on my end was just a little bit funky. Hopefully it's not too unbearable for people listening, but just know that after the first episode that was corrected. So don't think every time you come back, you're going to hear me sounding like a robot.
And speaking of sound, I also wanted to note that because it was our first episode, we were really excited. So our tone reflects that, and we're like pretty chipper, pretty, what's the word
for us?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty upbeat. Just know but I know that like when you're first diagnosed, you're probably not going to feel upbeat. We know the stuff we're talking about is meeting people at a place that like we were at one point, but now we're very far along in our journey. And so we are obviously, it gets easier in some ways. And so we just don't want anyone to feel like we're being like, I don't know, minimizing this, like the importance of like what we're talking about. So just wanted to note that. I think that's it. Just quick, just letting you know what it's about. This is like a very broad overview of our tips. These are not like specific medicine instructions and diet, recommendations. These are just broad overview. So without further ado, please enjoy the episode.
Let's get into it.
Okay, bye.
Ready?
Take one. So cute. Hi, and welcome to our very first episode of This Wasn't the Plan podcast. I'm Callie.
I'm Brittany.
Today's episode, we're going to talk about our top 10 tips for someone who is just diagnosed and give you an idea of what life is like post-diagnosis.
Yeah. If you or someone you love has recently been diagnosed, this episode is the one for you. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Yeah, let's go. We're here. We're doing it. We're starting our podcast.
Is this thing on?
It is. It's rolling.
Oh, boy.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
A little nervous because I don't know about you, but I've never done this before.
Never once. I try to be behind the camera.
I like to be in front of the camera, but nobody asks me to. So
I've been waiting for this.
I've just been waiting.
Whole life.
And since ChatGPT read me my birth chart and said I should be a podcaster, I mean,
There we go.
I felt like I had to listen to him.
Actually, let's tell the story. So in December, I don't remember why. I think Brennan had a dream that we had a podcast, and I texted you that. And then the next day, you got your rice machine. Maybe it was November.
Okay.
And it came with what looked like a mic stand.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's signed as a joke.
Right.
And then that was nothing after that.
Yeah, we didn't really think anything of it. It wasn't a mic stand, FYI. It held the light bulb.
Yeah. Healing powers. I'll get to that later.
And then, a few months later, I had a dream.
Well, again, Brennan said to me one night, something, I don't remember what, but something about me and you doing a podcast.
Well, because...
And then I didn't say anything to you. And then you texted me the next morning that you had a dream that we had a podcast.
But Brennan was saying that because we were gabbing a lot about Marco Polo, about cancer, but in a surprisingly upbeat way. And so it's you guys should film it. And then I had a podcast. I had a dream, and in the dream, we had a podcast, and it was called "We Had Cancer, and Now We Have Each Other." And it felt
a little long.
It was on the nose.
It was.
But I told you, and then it was just and then that's when I did my birth chart through ChatGPT, who's always right, and it said I needed to be a podcaster. There was very little I could do with my life, and I had to do it.
Do you think?
And I had to do it with you, obviously.
Yeah.
And, we lived on opposite sides of the country almost, but we made it work.
We were.
In Nebraska.
Let's see if production quality can stay the same.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Probably not, but that's okay. This is really exciting to just start with you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so good to see you, and I hope that people will be able to get something out of this.
What's your biggest hope for, or your biggest goal or reason for doing it?
I hope that somebody out there who's been diagnosed finds this and feels hope, because I feel like I did not have that when I started off. And if I would have had our podcast, because I couldn't be on social media or anything like that, so I was very isolated, but I could have listened to something. And
What do you mean you couldn't be on social media?
Well, I was isolated, and I didn't want to see all these people, happy that didn't have a cancer diagnosis. And I was really stressed out. So, and I just thought, if I could have seen two people doing super well, super healthy, living beyond cancer, towards the end of cancer, looking so vibrant, I think that would have helped me on my journey so much. So I just hope this helps someone out there.
No, same. Yeah, I agree. I think being so young and getting diagnosed, I felt like I was the only person in the world who ever experienced something like that, which is not true, but it felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope that someone somewhere will hear this, and whether it's their sister sends it to them as hey, look at these young women, or whatever, they just feel seen.
Yes.
Then it's all worth it.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about the top 10 tips that we put together for anyone who was recently just diagnosed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our first tip is get your mind right.
It's number one for a reason.
Okay. Explain why you feel like this is the number one thing, and then I'll tell you why I think it is.
We talk so much that I feel like we're going to say similar things, but I would say because your mind and your mindset has so much power. And even if you look into studies on placebo and nocebo, people who believe that something's going to work, it will. And people who don't, it won't. And it's not the only tool in the tool belt, but it is an incredibly important one. And it's not one that takes just a little bit of time. It takes a lot of effort and like daily showing up and like fighting what might feel natural, like more naturally realistic or pragmatic person. And it was a stretch for me to, and so I was just reading books and I was in the Word and like all sorts of things. Right. What about you?
I look at it more like in hindsight, and when I was first diagnosed, I was obviously pregnant in my last trimester, last month, and then I had the baby, and there was so much coming at me, like, okay, you need to make all these decisions about your treatment, your fertility, your genetic, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, is anybody looking at my mind and like seeing me for who I am? I'm postpartum, like I'm making all these like really life and death decisions about what I wanted to do with my body. And honestly, I don't feel like I was equipped to make those decisions. Like I needed like I needed some assistance with my mental health. And had I like took the time to like, just breathe, and I don't want to get into our next tips, but I just feel like you need to be in a good place with your head to be able to make the decisions that you need to make in order to get well. And so that's kind of where I was coming from for that.
With that, like what resources or what did you use to get your mind right?
So months and months later, when I finally felt like I got my head on straight and I could like figure out what I was going to do, it started with Radical Remission, the book Radical Remission. If you're not a reader, you're not a researcher, like this is just a great book of stories of people who radically came into remission. I don't know how you say that, but it was just like, wow, I can't believe these people like got well. It seemed like they were, and then and that was like, okay, well, if they can do it, then I surely could do this.
No, I would actually completely agree. I think I just have this like very specific memory of like a couple weeks in, like being in a detox bath and reading Radical Remission. And I would agree with that. And then a book that we both have, I sent to you, Declarations in the Desert was another really good one. If you're a person of faith, it's just like really, really helpful, like affirmations daily of healing. And I mean, there's like probably over 100 in there. But those both, I think that one got me to be an active participant, and Radical Remission was like expanding my mind to what the narrative is usually around cancer.
Yeah. I feel like, depending on who your first doctor is that you see, your first oncologist, can really like set the tone. And usually, unfortunately, through talking with other patients, it's a pretty bleak tone. And I thought I was going to die. And I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I forgot where I was going with that. But my mindset, like I was like, how am I ever supposed to even have a hope that I'm going to live and be okay when you're like setting the bar so low for me? Like I had to work so hard to get to a place where I even thought like, oh yeah, there is a chance I'm going to be okay. And so, you unfortunately have to do that like on your own, unless you are met with an incredible oncologist that's like, hey, this is scary, but you can do it and you're going to be okay. And that's unfortunately not common.
And say this is a little controversial, but I feel like the person that you are assigned to, I have never I've never met a person who said that they were met by an oncologist like right off the bat. So you kind of have to get trial and error.
Yeah.
Find somebody, which is probably another tip. But
should we go into tip number 2?
Let's do tip number 2, or we'll talk.
Tip 2 is take a breath. You have time. I think this is like a really important tip because it's extremely common to be rushed through the system. Cancer is really scary, but in most cases, it's not. Like you have at least a few weeks to like make your decisions, and they want to rush you through it, and you don't even have time to like research or think like, is this even what I really want? And it's like, no, you do have time, and you're also in charge. Like you can decide that for yourself. Did you feel like you were rushed? when you were
Yeah.
eventually diagnosed?
I don't want to get too in the weeds because we'll talk about our stories in detail, but literally I came home, I shared my diagnosis with my husband, and he sat down, and because he'd already kind of been prepping since, you know, over the weekend when we had the biopsy and then waited, like first words out of his mouth is like, let's take a breath. Let's not get sped up. Let's get our mind right. And I think that was not my natural inclination. Everyone around, like all the doctors and everyone is like, the house is on fire. It is an emergency.
Yeah.
And I think for liability reasons, they're never going to say, hey, take a moment, worry about it, think about it. Because you can't predict cancer. You can't predict who's going to need to act more quickly or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been growing in your body for a long time.
Yeah.
In most cases, not every case, you can take a week feels like an eternity at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think so as people feel like I have to have a decision made by tomorrow. Number one, because the in between and just like not having a plan is excruciating, and you just want to be to where you have a plan, because then you feel like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah. And I think that kind of segues into tip number 3, which is be the quarterback of your healing. I think it's really important to advocate for yourself, know your options, and you be the one calling the shots. Did you feel like in the beginning you were kind of just being pulled along, or did you feel like you were in charge? And how long did it take you to get to that point?
It took me, I think, because from the beginning I had inclinations that I might do this a little bit differently, but I didn't know how. And I think there's a lot of chatter about, you know, being pretty black and white, like, oh, if you're gonna do things holistically, it's like, oh, it's chemo's gonna kill you, and all, like, there's a lot of rhetoric around fear around all of that, and then obviously standard of care is like saying the opposite. So I think I knew that probably a month in, I found a doctor in a clinic that we ended up meeting at, and I think that felt like the first safe thing. And at that point, I think it took me a solid, until I got there, so probably 6 weeks to 2 months before I was like, I am the one making decisions. I have to be at peace with every decision I make, because at the end of the day, if you feel pulled by someone else, like, it is your life, and you have to feel at peace with what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd say it took me about a year to really feel like I was like in control of my situation, even though I was sort of like choosing my path. I still felt like I didn't know exactly what I was doing all the time. But one thing that it didn't even dawn on me when I was first diagnosed, I was kind of just like given an oncologist, and she was really cruel and just really had no bedside manner, and I was really struggling, and it didn't even dawn on me that I could fire her. Like she was working for me, you know, like I'm the one who's, well, my insurance is paying for her, you know, like I don't need her in my life. And I would walk away every time just hysterically crying, hopeless. Like, she just didn't answer my questions. She didn't even acknowledge me as like a person. I didn't feel like she acknowledged me as a human that was going through something. And I really wish I would have been like, it took honestly like 5 months to be like, oh, I don't need this lady. So I stopped seeing her, and then I didn't have one for a while. But it just like never dawned on me that I could hire my own, that I could you could ask around. Yeah. You got to find a person or an oncologist that you feel
100%
right with, you know?
Yeah, the person who I initially met with, you know, she was not mean. I felt like she treated me with empathy, but she also was very firm on what she would and would not allow me to do.
Yeah.
My own. I try to think about it from her perspective and whatever, but yeah, I just knew, like, I asked, you know, would you help me with any repurposed drugs? There's science out there showing that those help and kill tumors and all these things. And she was like, absolutely not. And yeah.
Well, so the second kind of part of that, but it's number 4 tip, is know your exact diagnosis. And I feel like that, like, I don't know how long it took you to understand your diagnosis, but I would say it took me embarrassing long time to truly understand my diagnosis.
It was like a year, and I was pretty much starting to come out of the cancer woods.
Yeah.
And someone explained it to me. I was like, that would have been good to know.
Yeah. Say what happened.
So I went, we'll talk in depth about our stories. It was almost a year. I had gotten what I thought was maybe a clean scan. It's so weird, black and white sometimes. And like, I didn't know, but the next step was surgery. And I met with the surgeon, and she told me some things about my pathology report that I'd never heard. She told me things about the type of breast cancer that I have. She said, you know, it's a family. They all have different personalities. I found out, like, and looking back, I think my oncologist, who I ended up working with, and I really like, kind of alluded to some of the things, but he didn't fully explain it. So, like, he had said at one point, for you, I think hormone therapy will be more effective than chemotherapy. I didn't know what that meant, and it's because I have a really low Ki-67 score, and chemo targets really fast, rapidly duplicating cells. That's hard to say. And rapidly dividing cells. Yeah. And mine weren't rapidly dividing as much. So, but it was very highly hormone driven. So, for me, once I started those, I saw a massive turnaround, massive change. And I don't think I would do anything differently than I did, except maybe start hormone therapy earlier.
Right.
But again, it's like I was already pretty much through the systemic treatment phase and was never explained any of that. I literally didn't even know if I had ductal or lobular breast cancer. No one told me. And I looked on I tried, and my oncologist was like, oh yeah. I'm like, what? Why was that not explained?
Why didn't anybody tell me? I know, I know a lot of people will get their diagnosis and go home and just, be on the internet looking up whatever and learning about it. And I don't know if the oncologists assume you'll just figure it out on your own. But I'm like, I'm anti-internet. So I needed to explain what was going on with me, from the beginning, which I kind of knew my diagnosis. But, when it came to the pathology and what they're doing a fish test. What's a fish test? That's kind of technical, and we don't need to get into that now, but I just didn't know any of that stuff. And I was so overwhelmed by the diagnosis that I couldn't even think about that. But I do think it's really important because it'll help dictate what you want to do.
And I think the surgeon who I met with was really fantastic at explaining all of that. And the doctor who we both see, I think, also really understand that, and was, taking a look more deeply at some of those things. When we look at what is HER2 low versus HER2 negative. So anyways, long story short is there's a lot of information in there. And if you need someone in your life to look into it for you and explain those things to you, there are some resources, because you can't rely on oncologists always to be the person to explain everything.
Well, that's our number 5 tip, and that's intentionally build your care team. Because, so you want to be the quarterback, but you need your team. You want a good... Now, I'm going to attempt some sports references here. I am not a sports person. So, but I know you need... Okay, you're the quarterback. You're the leader. You need running back. You need some defenders probably in there, a offensive line. I don't know. You need... The thrower is the quarterback.
No, the guy who catches
the catcher.
I'm baseball.
Okay, let's go baseball. No, but so you want to build your team so that you win. And that is I think that's going to be personal, because, when depending on your type of cancer and what you have and how you want to heal, you may want a nutritionist. You may want a Chinese herbalist. There's a lot of team members, teammates. I don't even think you can have too many people on your team. There's no limit. really your finances are probably your limit, but
Yeah, a limit for sure. And like what you would get, you like everybody's experience is different. First of all, what type, like if you have like colorectal cancer, you're gonna have completely different pathology, different things. Like we both have had breast cancer, and you know, for us at the stage that we were given in meetings with a medical oncologist, a surgical oncologist, and a radiation oncologist, which each oversee one part of that. You might get lucky and be a hospital social worker, and that is about it.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, the idea of having someone, you know, the thing that helped me was I have my oncologist. You know, he'll speak to me from one sense of, you know, looking at, and I like him because he does stay up to date on research. I can speak to, you know, more current things coming out. And then I've got the doctor who is more of my integrative doctor. We've got a nurse practitioner. I see a chiropractor. You know, you've got, and
I got a lot of people in my.
what do you have?
Well, I have my standard of care oncologist who I really like now. He's super open to all types of healing. I have my integrative doctor. I have my nurse practitioner. I have my medical medium. I have lymphatic drainage massage therapist. It's a lot of words. I have, man, I actually don't even know the technical terms of all the people in my life, but I have a lot of people on my team, and I feel good about it now. I always say I am also surrounded by a lot of angel nurses, because the nurses have been an incredible just support. You know, they're not necessarily telling us, giving us the advice. They're the ones poking us all the time, but they do it with love and care. And, you know, we're lucky to have them. Okay. Number 6 is let people help you. This is a big one for me, but for you, were you like really accepting of help from the beginning, or what was your relationship with that?
I think I've done a lot of work on like self-reliance and the need for community prior. So I wasn't super resistant. I would say, like, in order to do low dose chemo, like that's a huge financial barrier. Yeah. Out of pocket for all of it. And it's super expensive. So my sister launched a GoFundMe, and that, like, people helping financially, I think it was so humbling. Yeah. Because, like, I don't know about you, but I always like to be the person doing the helping. Oh yeah. Not necessarily like, I think there is probably some ego involved, but also just like, that's, you know, I wanna help people. Like being the receiving end feels, I mean, first of all, like I was just felt so blessed, and like, wow, people are so kind and giving and generous. And I was also like, oh, this is so icky. They should do something else with this. And like, how do I pay this back? And that was a hard one. But it truly, like, I think about different random people who showed up in really remarkable ways. Yeah. Daily. Yeah. And just like that tangible act of love and support. What about you?
I'd say, like, in the beginning, I had so many like chapters of my diagnosis. My first chapter, I'd say I was like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So like, we weren't necessarily, I mean, I was so isolated that I didn't even know what I needed. I was just such a shell, but I had a newborn, and I definitely needed help with that. Help with him, not that. I need help with my baby, because I was like having some trouble, you know, holding him, and just being a mom, and like trying to figure out how am I a mom when I need to go do an MRI? Like, moms don't do that. Like, newborn, I don't know. It's just like, it was really hard. But then eventually, when I did start doing low dose chemo and the expense, and, you know, when people were starting to like, help us monetarily, like, we needed it because of the extreme expense. But I also felt the same way. I was like, oh, but, you know, they need their money. Like, what if, I don't know. I just felt like I was taking so much, and people have been so generous to us, but I I'm still working on not feeling guilty about it because, I know I didn't ask for this diagnosis, but, accepting help has been like a serious process. But it is important too, because you will need help. You can't do it alone. You absolutely cannot.
Like, there's a lot, like, if you struggle with it, it's probably an invitation to a different form of healing, which is like working on shame and self-worth and pride.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of stuff,
No, you're totally right. I mean, I didn't feel worthy of the help that people were offering. And, somebody told me one time, and I'm going to like misquote them, but I think it was my priest, but he said, like, when somebody offers to help you and you deny their help, you're denying their, like, there's a term for it. It's like emotion or like spiritual something. Like, you're taking away from them.
Yeah.
So
maybe they feel called to.
Yeah, like they want to help you. And when he said that to me, I was like, oh. And then I had another friend tell me she wanted to help me, but she couldn't. She had, children. She didn't have like time to help, but she would love to like donate to something. And I was like, oh, like, I don't know. It was kind of like opening my mind up to like, okay, people like genuinely want to help and allow them to. So I feel like that's something you really should accept.
Yeah.
Okay, our number 7 tip is focus on stories of healing.
Kind of goes back to radical remission.
Yeah, like the more, whatever you focus on, what is it? Like where your mind goes, energy flows. Read and find as many stories of your specific cancer. There's actually a great resource on Chris Beat Cancer where it's like you can find your specific cancer on his website and a story of healing, like hope and healing, like a specific person's story. And I'd say just focus on that, because that is the goal, is healing. And if you don't believe it, then why would your body?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. There are going to be people who will say things, and we're going to talk about that in another episode. And sometimes there are things that you don't want to hear, whether it's a doctor saying something you don't want to hear, or someone who gets nervous and doesn't know how to respond and says something really inappropriate. Those are all things that you have to choose to say, I'm not going to focus on that. I have a million other reasons to have hope, and I'm going to focus my energy on those things. Yeah. And I think there are so many podcasts out there. Shameless plug. No, but I think
hours. No,
this wasn't the plan. But there are a lot of podcast episodes, like you said, where you can go and listen to people's story of healing.
Yeah.
It could immediately, I think, listen to your intuition, because like there were stories that I heard that immediately I felt a little anxious about, even if they were healing, because I was like, well, we didn't do it quite the same way. But listen to it. Don't put your energy into that. There are people out there who are doing things the way you are, whether it's social media or podcasts or whatever.
Yeah. And someone told me, like way late in the diagnosis, but I wish I kind of would have heard in the beginning, is accept your diagnosis, but deny the prognosis. And being stage 4, it's like, well, I didn't need to look up anything. Like, I know what people think and say, and I just never accepted that, ever. Like, never, not once. No one ever said it to me. I wouldn't allow anyone to say anything, the prognosis, whatever, to me. And, here I am doing so well, and I continue that. And I believe that that's like, a very important thing to just remind yourself always.
I think with that, one last thing I'll say is, when I met you, I think I was just really astounded by your groundedness, despite your, like, when we met you were stage 2, and then we went our separate ways for a few months, and then you got yourself an upgrade.
Love those upgrades.
And I think, like, and one of the first things we talked about was like that you struggle with anxiety, and that this was like you were really starting to see your healing even in your mental health, because you weren't spiraling. You had a lot of like healing energy flowing through you. So I think it's something that you don't have to be like, well, I'm just an anxious person, I'm just a worst case scenario person. You can choose to surround yourself with the things that you can become.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not easy, but you just keep focusing on the positive stories of healing, and you'll be the next one. Like, you just have to keep reminding yourself that you'll be the next hopeful story for the next person, you know? So fortunately, there will be a next person. Our number 8 tip is take it one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a very important one because there are a lot of decisions and you're going to be like inundated with a lot of, you know, options and calls and appointments. And, you know, when you think of it like, okay, I got to go get this scan. I got to get this scan. I get this biopsy. Then I got to make this decision. Then I got to go do chemo. Then I got to get my point. It's like, whoa, that is too much to absorb. And so you just have to start with like, okay, what do I need to do today? Mm-hmm. And maybe not even tomorrow. Just think about today. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how you can get through that initial like diagnosis phase.
I would say at least the first few months. Mm-hmm. And like as you're like until you kind of start to see results that are trending toward moving to the next phase or the next step, whatever it is for you, I think staying centered is really helpful. Mm-hmm. One thing that like I've kind of used as like a mantra throughout my entire journey was cloud by day, fire by night. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to Exodus when the Israelites are leaving and they are in the wilderness and they're there for 40 years and they don't know how long they're going to be there, but they are just following. The Lord gives during the day a pillar of cloud and at night a pillar of fire, and that is literally what they're following. And so they aren't looking at like how far they need to go or where they need to go or how long it's going to take to get there. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is where we are. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, to one degree that created then like some challenges when I thought like, then I was surprised by what had to come next because I was like, oh, but I've been working so hard at this phase.
Yeah.
But I would have had a lot of anxiety around decision making if I was thinking about chemotherapy and which kind I should do and if I should do it or what surgery to get. And if I like, because you don't even know what you're going to qualify for until you get to that stage. So
yeah, I feel like I was so overwhelmed in the beginning and because of everything I said, and I didn't even give myself the advice to take it one step at a time. It was just like an instinctual thing because I couldn't handle all of the things. So I was like, okay, what do I got to do today? I just need to get out of bed. Like, I need to get out of bed, I need to feed my baby. And like, it was literally minute by minute for me. It wasn't even day. It was like, okay, what do I need to do in the next, in this next hour? Okay. I could get dressed. Probably not going to, but I could. That's what I need to focus on. Get dressed. Like it it's tough, but one step at a time and you'll get through it. Mm-hmm. Important thing to remember.
Yeah. I do think that's kind of a segue to the next one. I looked ahead and you could say it.
Well, okay. Our number 9 tip that I think I probably forced you to put in here was keep a cancer binder journal or like keep a cancer binder. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're going to have a lot of paperwork, whether that's like notes from your oncology appointments or your pathology report, your scan results, your blood work, your bills. It's just a lot to navigate. And especially if you see another doctor, they're going to want all that paperwork. And instead of having to like get it organized every single time, put it in a binder. You have it all there. The practical side of me, the organized side of me, it's like the only enjoyable part of honestly the cancer was having an organized cancer.
Between you.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Do it, and I was like, this sucks.
How many binders do you have now?
4.
I have 5.
Yep. Well,
not that I'm not beating you or anything,
that's
but
about
I
right.
have a few more months.
A few more invoices.
Yeah, I have a few more invoices.
But I think what made me think of this when we were talking was, this actually encapsulates a lot. I had to be, unfortunately, the quarterback of my care team. I flew in and out to get treatment every week. I didn't have someone with me. If you have the luxury or the ability to take someone with you, and that is someone that you would trust to like be a note taker and like that will help you live in the present. Because I think that was one of the hard things was like trying to stay present and also being the person who had to take the notes and results. And sidebar, I ended up using an AI note taker so that I could just be present with my doctor. But
so smart.
I think all of that being said, those notes that you're taking or your loved one is taking and all of the appointments and everything, Like, I just remember I had a blank notebook in my office, and the day I was diagnosed, I got like 20,000 different calls from different people, and I had to be places at different times, and I was just like furiously scribbling in it, and I'm like, I don't know where that notebook is, and I think I would just be like so sad to see it and think about that, but
Yeah.
I was glad I had like a centralized place for everything.
Wow, that just brought me back like a sense memory of like this like call with my oncologist, and I was holding the baby and we put it up on the TV so like my mom, my dad, and my husband could all hear it, and I had a notebook and I was like trying to like, you know, write down notes, and it was a brutal call. Anyways, I didn't enjoy that, but just being organized, you know, just having it all together, because the last thing you want to do when you're struggling with a diagnosis is trying to find your scan results. I mean, I know a lot of things are digital, but if you are trying to reference things all the time, it's just hard to get those reports sometimes, and especially with multiple different doctors.
Bonus tip, this is gonna make up a lucky number. I'm adding one to make it 11, but it's not really a full one. Is when you take someone with you, number one, make sure it's someone that you're comfortable with being very vulnerable around. There's times where like I brought my parents into a conversation, and the second part of this is you have to be okay being vulnerable, because I think as adults we kind of get in this like, I'm okay, I can take care of myself, I've got, you know, I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
And there was some really hard conversations that they had to be present for. And like things like initially, I don't know, it was one of those where I'm like, looking back, maybe I should have not brought them, because it's hard to have them witness such a painful thing, and like, your parents sitting there. But I mean, at the same time, like, I think that's how you beat the self-sufficiency, and you let people help you, and so I guess, you know, just don't take your neighbor who you don't know very well to be your note taker. Our conversations. Also, like, it's a hard season, and letting some trusted people in on that, I think is important.
Yeah, no, that's good advice, I think, and just having someone there that can hold your hand, you know, having some emotional support. But kind of would have been a good tip to add to the list.
Well, we did.
There we go. That's a bonus tip, brings some emotional support. Our number 10 tip is you can integrate, not choose between. What does this mean for you?
I really love this one.
Oh, yes. Hey, look, I'm impressed that it took almost the entire episode to cry.
Almost got through it
without some tears. But that's okay. That's good. It's healing.
It is. Tears release cortisol. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. There's cortisol in your tears, and it gets out of your body.
Okay, I need to go.
I actually fact check that, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, we're not doctors here.
Yeah. So for me, I think I felt like I kind of mentioned there's like the holistic world and the standard of care world, and they don't like each other. They don't play well. And I think when you choose an integrative route, you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And that took away a lot of anxiety where I was like, what if I choose the wrong thing? So, I think that was a really big relief for me when I decided, hey, I'm going to take what feels right.
Yeah. In the beginning, I was just met with standard of care, and I was feeling so much resistance, and something in me was like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. But a lot of people in my close circle were like very for it, because that's really all we've ever known. We didn't know anything about cancer. And it was a lot of, like turmoil. And if I would have thought, okay, had I known you could do different types of chemo, and while also doing like some holistic stuff, like just integrating everything or doing it how I wanted to, it would cause a lot less stress, I felt like. But you know, it's not offered to you. So just know you can integrate whatever treatments you want. They usually are very, complementary of each other.
I think,
like, what is it like when you get diagnosed? Like, what is a diagnosis like?
No, what does it look like? Yeah, from diagnosis to moving into an integrative treatment space.
Okay. Well, for me, it was a lot of calls from the hospital. It was a lot of appointments, a lot of scans, a lot of decisions. like, also like, how do you tell people that you have cancer? Like, for me, it was like, cancer was a 4-letter word to me. I was like, I wouldn't dare say this, you know? I do say a lot of 4-letter words actually, but still, but it was just like, I couldn't even say the word cancer. I don't know if it was just like not accepting it, but, you know, telling people that you have cancer, you know, I just had a baby. So people were expecting to hear news about the baby. They were like, when was the baby born? And it was like, I couldn't even enjoy that, or, you know, I'll get into that when I talk about my story, but it's just, there's a lot coming at you. And that's why our 10 tips are, I feel like, will help that initial part, or that initial time period, because you are dealing with a lot, and you know, you need to figure out how to like navigate that.
Yeah, I think because I did take a beat, and I was like, okay, I had my meeting at the hospital with all the different people, and that didn't sit well. So let's reevaluate. I really needed to be doing something, and I kept saying, I need to do something. And so like my husband was like, okay, we are just going to surround you with as much healing as we can. And so, I mean, there was juicing and rebounding and detox baths and saunas and exercise and like everything you possibly can, reading all the time. It was right around Christmas. And so I wasn't working a ton because it was like we were shutting down for the year. So, that was good. But also doing things that took my mind off of it, like working wasn't a bad thing. So
also, you're going to really want to compare yourself to others in your situation. Don't. That's not good. Don't ever compare yourself. Even, you know, even people who are doing well, because your stories, your cancers, everything's different. You're on your own journey. You can have people along the path with you, but your story is going to be different ultimately from others, and comparing is just never good. I know I was kind of trying to do that with people I had known who had cancer like previously, like years before, and they didn't even have the same cancers as me. And I was like, you know, I just couldn't stop doing comparisons, and it was really detrimental to my mental health at the time. But I would say don't do that, and you know, just pay attention to our top 10 tips. Say that 3 times fast. No, really, say it. No. Do it. Just kidding.
Yeah, I think like being aware of the stages of grief, which is like such a counseling 101 thing, is important. Because everyone's going to move through those stages differently, like speeds. And like some of my loved ones were heavy on the denial for a while, and then like I was trying to move into acceptance, and like we're all like, cancer is hard for everybody. Like no one chooses it, and like, you know, being the person going through it, being the person who's supporting the person going through it, like it's all hard. Yeah, and we're all moving through stages of grief. So just being aware of like denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, and like be like, oh, I feel myself moving into the next one. Yeah, I'm really pissed off. That's a good thing. Yeah, you're healing. You're So I think just reminding yourself that that's a process. It's important.
I will say, back to the stages of grief, I went through them for sure, and then when I had finally gotten to like acceptance, and then like beyond, later on in my cancer journey, you know, I had bad news, and I had to go through the stages of grief again. And I was thinking, I already went through this. Why do I have to go through this again? You know, and but that is something, and I've talked to other patients too, that they felt the same way. Like those stages, like you may get through all of them, but it's okay if at one point you go back to even the beginning, or, you know, whatever one you get to, it's okay. And it's really just part of the healing process. I really struggled with denial. I had a really big phase of denial. It's like, this isn't happening to me. I don't want this to happen to me. I just want to be a mom. Like, I just want to be here with my newborn. Like, I'm just going to pretend it's not happening. If I pretend it's not happening, maybe will work.
You know what? It's so wild to hear like that because my denial was pretty fast. And like, again, I think that goes to like you and I are pretty different in like the way that we approach some of that. And when I was in denial, it was like if I just hide under the covers, like it was just these weird thoughts I'd never experienced.
Yeah.
If no one sees me and I hide, like it won't be there. And I don't answer my phone. They can't talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, those are all normal things.
Yeah.
And it won't be forever. And like, we are all on different timelines and try, going back to the tips, like try to get yourself into like a healing space and you might accelerate your ability to work through grief.
Yeah. Really good.
Another one that we talked about is that people probably will treat you in ways that you don't love. They might treat you differently.
Yeah.
Whether it's with pity or they look at you scared. That was a saying I'd always be like, if you're going to look at me scared, I don't want to be around you.
Yeah.
Or like, what are some other things that you were like, man, that's not helpful?
I feel like people were kind of tiptoeing around me, like walking on eggshells a little. Like I wasn't attacking them or anything, but I feel like everybody was in such shock that this was happening because, I was obviously young and having a baby that they were like, how do we handle this? Everyone was kind of in worker mode, like just trying to like clean up the house or, do like just tasks and stuff because, everybody wants to go into like fix it mode. And I was just kind of like walking around like crying and like I don't know. It was a real mess. I wouldn't even call it a hot mess. It was just a mess.
There's no hot there.
There's no hot there. No. But yeah, the way people treated us, yeah, I give them grace because if I was in their shoes, you don't know. It's scary. Cancer can be really scary and it's probably your first time dealing with it in such a personal way. Like someone so close to you that, nobody knows how to navigate it in the beginning.
Yeah. The people who I felt like treated me in a way that was like the best are the people who've gone through some stuff themselves.
Yeah.
People who've gone through trauma, whether it's cancer or something else. I was just like really amazed with how some people showed up. And it was even people really close to me. I was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
And then I was like, they'd been through some stuff and then allowed them to know what's helpful. Like I just had someone close to me get diagnosed with cancer. I would not have known how to respond. I wouldn't I knew I just need to show up and I need to bring some stuff and we'll get there with like how to support someone. We have a whole episode coming on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I think being grateful for those who do know how to show up. Yeah. Not being afraid to tell people what you need because sometimes people just want to support you and they don't know what you need and like instruct them, be like, yeah, I really need my house cleaned. I need someone to come hold my baby. I need whatever. But a lot of people just don't intuitively know that because it's a shocking, like jarring situation. So I think for your own well-being and for your relationships, give grace as you can. Yeah. And understand that they're, trying to figure it out.
That is great advice. I think we should wrap it up. Yeah. Right. We've said a lot. It was a really good episode, if I can say that. And no, but, it's getting diagnosed is really scary, but, having those tips, I think can be really helpful to navigate it. And, we've been in your shoes and they're scary shoes, but now we're in a lot less scary shoes and doing great. We're in really cute shoes now. And, thanks for tuning in and joining us today.
Come back next time.
Yeah, come back. We're so excited you're here. Thanks for listening to our podcast. We have a big favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and leave a review. It really helps people find us.
Thank you so much and see you next time.
Bye.